few decks that actually can extend the purpose of the Stifle. You know, normally once you get to a certain point, the Stifle's pretty dead. Like, sure, you can get a couple of niche uses, as we saw last match, Bakula stifling the Edict effect from Liliana of the Veil.
Yep.
I know I personally have stifled an Annihilator trigger from an Emrakul and then chump blocked it. Yeah, that's a pretty good trigger to stifle. You know, so you do get some of those uses, but generally Stifle, after the first couple turns, once you're not, you know, stone raiding with it, not that great anymore. But you can actually turn it into a 4/4 Angel by making it stick around after the Guy's Insane Trap trigger.
Yeah, that's
which
pretty
is,
good.
Yeah, one of the coolest uses of Stifle I've ever seen. So here we go, Ryan on the play. Kind of a big deal for his deck, less of a big deal for Brad.
Yeah, he leads off Volcanic Island, but no 1-drop, and Brad, Polluted Delta, no 1-drop. Brad obviously generally wants to have, you know, some cantrips or something to start actually getting his combo together, but without one of them, kind of indicates he kept a very specific kind of hand, usually one that has some combo.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you knew this matchup, but it looks like he's quite mana heavy, whereas Ryan is basically playing a glorified mana denial deck. You know, it is basically Rug Delver with white instead of green. You know, the Stifle Wasteland attack. Land death. There we go. That's the term. Land death.
Land death indeed. Ryan here brainstormed in response to Brad's fetch crack, hoping to find a Stifle while shuffling away some clunkers. Fails to find one, but he'll go ahead and shuffle anyway.
Yeah, Swords to Plowshare is not too good against Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, it turns out.
Yeah, I see at least an Emrakul and a City of Traders in Brad's hand already.
So he's, you know,
he's on his way.
He's got the mana. He's like 2/3 of the way there. Just got to find a way to cheat that fatty into play. It looks like the fetch is going to resolve.
Ryan went ahead and fetched his land because he, you know, actually doesn't know what Brad's playing at this juncture. If Brad was himself playing, say, Rogue Delver and had a Stifle,
yeah,
he wouldn't want to just get got.
Right.
Goes ahead and gets his Volcanic Island first.
And so the game develops to the point where, you know, Brad's able to sort of establish his mana base, which is exactly what he wants to do. We do see a Wasteland in Ryan's hand, but, you know, Brad's going to be able to make this land drop and the next, at least.
Interestingly, at this point, if I'm Brad, I would be most likely to assume I was playing a mirror, just based on the plays that have actually transpired.
That is very true.
That could affect some of Brad's choices. Note that, you know, he did go ahead and get a non-basic. If he knew he was playing against a Stifle Wasteland deck, he might not have gone for Volcanic Island.
That is an astute observation, Benjamin Jones.
Jig is up now.
Yeah, for sure. Wasteland, not exactly the sneak and show staple. Spell Pierce, more, you know, defense. I don't want to say gas, but spells at least. But, you know, he hasn't really produced any traction in this game yet.
Brad's just, you know, kind of waiting for a show and tell or a sneak attack to show up.
Yes, or at least a ponder and brainstorm. You know, something to get deeper into his deck and sort of create some sort of game plan. It looks like he did draw a ponder, so here we go.
Ryan declines to Spell Pierce here. Obviously, Brad could just pay for that. He could burn something like a Spell Pierce and a Daze on it, but that's obviously a little
ambitious.
Little ambitious. If he had a Stifle, it might be a much more attractive choice.
Yeah, for sure. Looks like there was a show and tell, and I think even a brainstorm in that ponder, so definitely not bad at all.
Easy keeps.
Yes, for sure. And Brad's looking to start, you know, sculpting that thing. You know, you don't really want to go for it against a deck that you know might have Spell Pierces and Dazes. If you can keep making land drops, you want to do that as long as you can while you're not under pressure.
Until Ryan actually presents a threat, Brad has actually no reason to do anything.
And speaking of which, Delver, here comes the clock. Brad, definitely not the fastest clock. Brad's still got a lot of time, but you know, he's actually got to start putting the wheels in motion now, at least. And sure enough, looks like he's going to cast the Brainstorm right away. This is a bit of an aggressive Brainstorm. I don't think you're under enough pressure. I think he can take the turn back, draw another card that he knows he wants off the ponder, and maybe then Brainstorm.
I think he might be doing this as a bait to try and go off next turn.
That is also possible. Throw this into the Spell Pierce.
Yeah, he'll have 4 Spell Pierce up, so he's beating Daze with his 4th land. Or actually, he's beating Spell Pierce and Daze if he makes his 4th land City of Trader.
True.
Of Traders. And then he has Force of Will removing Spell Pierce as another option, and that's, you know, that's pretty much the wrap. Yeah, he's got all the angles covered from that point.
Yeah, so he may be going for it this next turn. We see a Gristlebrand in his hand as well. Still no sneak attack, which is generally the preferred of the two ways to sort of cheat a fatty into play. But he does have the show and tell, and either option, the Risselbrand or the Emrakul, both quite powerful.
I know that Brad, prides himself on his ability to read the opponent in these situations, and it's possible he's, maybe picked up on Ryan having a Spellpiercer days. Maybe that's why he's, playing around the conditional counter magic in this way, like just trying to get to where he needs to be. Obviously, without pressure, there was just no incentive to do much of anything.
Absolutely, but once you see the Delver come down in the Wasteland, you know what, you might not know his exact 60, but you know what general type of strategy you're against, and these types of decks do generally play Spell Pierces and or Dazes, so I would not be surprised if Brad actually took a turn back, made another land drop, and just passed the turn back again. Continue to make land drops. I mean, it's not like Ryan is using a lot of cantrips to power through his deck, he's just drawing a card off the top every turn. He's not filtering nearly as much as Brad is, and I think that Brad can either go for it or and he just drew a second copy of Show and Tell, so
that's
he can
going for it.
he can actually just bait with the first copy of Show and Tell here.
The City of Traders, a clear signal from Brad that he's going for it.
Yeah.
And note, he leaves up his Volcanic Islands. He's going to make sure Ryan has to fear sneak attack at the very least. Ryan, pretty vulnerable here. He's going to Spell Pierce. Brad will pay.
He's pay, yeah. Sure enough, and here comes Daze.
Yep. And do you bounce an island or do you hardcast it? He's going to bounce.
Yeah, I like bouncing it there.
I like bouncing it too. Bouncing it too, you keep the illusion that you might have something else.
Yes, exactly. And Brad does let it resolve. I was going to question whether he was going to Force Will there or not. I like letting it resolve because now any extra Dazes are back off. Any extra Spell Pierces are back off. You're going to have 2 cards there. And we see a little filtering, a little cute interaction. You see a decent amount in Legacy. Look at the top card for the Delver of Secrets trigger. It's not something you want, not something that flips the Delver, or something you want, and you crack a fetch before you draw, shuffle it away, and get a fresh card.
Yeah, important here is, Ryan really doesn't want Brad knowing what he's drawing this turn. He just saw Brad try and go for it and stop. Brad, pretty content, I think, to go off against a Delver that didn't flip if Ryan drew the card. Obviously knows that's not a spell that interacts with him in any relevant way.
Absolutely. Mask that information. And there are very few cards that Ryan has in his deck that interact on an important level here. You see Spell Pierce there, which theoretically is good, but obviously not quite enough with Brad's board. But, he's got a lot of Swords to Plowshares, Lightning Bolts in his deck that don't actually do that much against what Brad is trying to accomplish.
Ryan just gave away another card in his hand as well. He played the Misty Rainforest instead of the Tundra he bounced. So that's one less spell Brad has to worry about from the potential hand.
Interesting. So we see the City of Traders is going to go down from the Polluted Delta.
I believe Brad is saying he's adding mana in response to this trigger.
Yeah.
And the player is calling the judge to verify that he can do that. Ryan appears to believe, Brad missed the trigger, but even if he did, I believe the ruling here is that the trigger would simply go on the stack, at which point Brad could use the city anyway.
Yeah, correct.
So the judge will resolve that.
The question is basically whether City of Traders is a triggered ability, which I'm fairly certain it is.
It is.
So you can always respond to that, even if you miss it. And sure enough, looks like 2 mana in the pool, along with that blue. Conveniently enough, casts his Show and Tell.
Well, we've got Daze and Spell Pierce beat this time. Ryan's going to need to do better.
Yes. Maybe he has something better than an Emrakul to put into play.
Maybe.
What do you think the odds of that are?
Odds are low. I see a Volcanic Island. His hand is Spell Pierce, Lightning Bolt, Swords to Plowshares, Volcanic Island. He's going to have to tear some pretty nice ones to beat the oncoming Emrakul.
Absolutely, and we see, this sort of thing in action where Ryan has a bunch of semi-dead cards in game 1, and these types of combo decks really rely on that to, and there's Emrakul, to take advantage, and so and there's the skip. I was going to say, Emrakul actually doesn't have trample, even though it seems like it should. I don't understand how it doesn't. Like flavor-wise, how does that thing not just run over you?
It looks like it should be able to get past,
like a bird, right?
An insect, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to pick one.
The Annihilator 6 trigger still happens, but you can actually chump block it, which has come up a couple times. But now we look at the board. We know that Ryan has quite a bit to take out.
Yes.
Let's look at what he brings in. He's got a Pyroblast and 2 Red Elemental Blasts. If not for this matchup, then for what,
Yeah.
So he's got 3 blasts. Those are pretty good. Vendilion is also quite good against these style of decks. You can actually respond to the Show and Tell and take either their the guy they were going to put into play with a show and tell, or the disruption and then counter the show and tell. Or you can play it proactively and sort of just see what was up, kind of mess with their hand a little, and put a significant clock on.
That's how I prefer to play it.
Yeah, aggressively, fast and loose, Glenn Jones, fast and loose.
You're not going to see me pass up a turn 3 Vanillion Click.
Fair enough. So he's definitely bringing in the second copy of Vanillion Click, as well as an additional copy of Spell Pierce, his fourth copy of Force of Will. All of these cards, for exactly these types of matchups. Relic not too good, Rest in Peace not too good, Engineered Explosives not too good. Surgical Extraction's actually okay.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
Like, it might be the thing where it's like, not that great, but you have so many cards to take out that maybe you find room for it. And then Wear and Tear also not great, but I mean,
just not great.
Yeah,
we can leave it there.
Yeah, it's not great. I will say it is cool to see it played in Legacy because I've definitely played like Hull Breaches and stuff like that in my day. So Wear and Tear is it's definitely sweet to a sweet card to see.
On Brad's side, he has access to some of the same cards. He has 3 Pyroblasts he can bring in to fight these counter wars. He has access to Through the Breach, which can function as, sort of an additional show and tell, but albeit one that can be played at instant speed. Unfortunately, it costs 5 mana, so I don't see him bringing that in. He knows his opponent has Wasteland, Spell Pierce, and Daze. Based on the Brainstorm play, he might even deduce that his opponent has access to Stifle.
Right.
So that's going to make trying to get a Through the Breach down much less attractive. So I anticipate him changing very little, probably just bringing in those Pyroblasts, leaving Through the Breach, Wipe Away, and Echoing Truth on the board. Every other card in his deck is a pretty highly specialized hate.
Yep, I agree. You got the Ley Lines for the discard, you got the bounce for the onboard hate, but there's none of that from Ryan. It's just straight up old-fashioned counter magic. And
I just want to fight you and counter your things.
Yeah, which actually is the axis that Sneak and Show is best at fighting.
Yes.
Like, if that's how you're trying to attack them, Sneak and Show is basically designed to beat you at that game. So it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle for Ryan, not only down a game, but kind of playing into Sneak and Show's hands. Sneak Attack, Show and Tell is definitely more vulnerable to hand disruption, which is why you see the 4 Ley Line of Sanctity, because that can be quite... that's a good way to lose, as the Sneak and Show player. And also being raced, the Sneak Attack Show and Tell deck, not the fastest combo deck necessarily. You can be outrun by Belcher or Storm fairly easily. But if you're just trying to use, Force of Will and soft counters, especially things like Daze and Spell Pierce that the Sneak Attack deck can just outrun by making its land drops, playing a bunch of double lands and Lotus Petals, lots of mana and lots of re-counters. That's what the deck does best.
Very powerful magic.
Very, very powerful.
Brad appears to be taking his time sideboarding. Maybe he had to figure out what to cut for those those Pyroblasts. It can be tricky, obviously. When you're a combo deck, most of the things in your main deck are just built to make you combo. Yeah. So siding some of them out for disruption, kind of tough. That's why you don't want to do it unless it's absolutely necessary. I think this is a matchup where it's good, mostly because all of Ryan's best threats also happen to be blue. So if whether he needs to buy time or force his win through,
kill a Delver or counter a Geist or whatever, that's totally fine. I mean,
reasonable.
Yeah, you just buy yourself a bunch of time. I mean, if you buy yourself 3 draw steps or 3 turns, that's 3 new draw steps and 3 turns worth of mana that you can spend on Brainstorms and Ponders and stuff. That definitely has value. And being able to counter a Vanillion Click before the trigger goes on, also very important. And I mean, Brad doesn't know that Ryan doesn't have Meddling Mage, but that is a card that has been sort of sneaking into popularity as 2 and 3 ofs in these style of decks. And the split of blasts, obviously quite good against Meddling Mage as well. So totally reasonable card to bring in. Not sure what he's going to bring out. Looking at Brad's deck, I'm reminded of Intuition as sort of just like an instant speed Demonic Tutor is like the key card that Surgical Extraction is good against. I remember when I was playing the Thought Scour Snapcaster Bug deck, I would always bring in the Surgicals against decks with Intuition for exactly that interaction.
Ryan off to a much better start in this game. He leads with turn 1 Delver. That's an immediate clock. Immediately flip on turn 2.
With a Stifle.
Easy game, boys. Brad
Yeah.
starts with a basic island, so he has dodged both Stifle and Wasteland for now.
Yeah, and this is exactly how Ryan drew it up. This is what his deck is designed to do. Fast clock, lots of disruption. I mean, his hand is just like blast, force, stifle, another blue card, and
I think
third
it's
land
two
drop.
forces, right? Like it looks like force, stifle, red blast, and a land.
Yeah, that's a heck of a hand against Sneak and
Yeah,
Show.
that is.
Especially with that clock.
Have his work cut out for him. Plays a Lotus Petal after a fetch land. He knows the stifle is there, so he knows he can't just do this thing.
Right.
He's considering perhaps trying it and hoping to use his force to get through the stifle, but that's a little bold.
Yeah, you got time. I mean, you're at 17. Take a couple hits, try and develop your mana, make a couple more land drops. I think he's got like a brainstorm somewhere hiding in there. You can cast that and yeah, develop your mana. I mean, against the Dazed Spell Pierce deck, that's all you really want to do.
I don't think I would brainstorm this instep. Would you?
No,
I feel like
agree.
waiting and hoping to draw another fetch land, get max value on the shuffle is a little stronger.
I agree. Even just to get one card deeper into your deck before you're basically brainstorm locked, since your fetch land's going to get stifled. I think that's quite important. I'm inclined to agree, and Ryan's actually thinking about fighting over this, which is completely reasonable, if he's got a Pierce or something, because the Lotus Petal is a non-permanent mana source. That gets sacrificed, so if you have to pay for a spell, say a Spell Pierce with the Lotus Petal, then that's like killing it. And Brad can't use the Scalding Tarn to pay for it, not only because it'll get stifled, but also if he cracks the Scalding Tarn, then he can't shuffle after the Brainstorm, greatly limiting the power of the Brainstorm. So after tanking on it, he decides not to, and we do see another fetch land, a Spell Pierce, and is that another copy of Show and Tell from Brad? So not a bad Brainstorm at all. He definitely would prefer to have, one more permanent mana source available to him. But besides that, I mean, his hand is quite good. A bunch of Show and Tells, a Force of Will. I think that's an Emrakul to put into play. Definitely not bad. And a Spell Pierce as well for value. And now taking on what to put back. Although I wouldn't strain too hard because I don't think that fetch land crack is going to resolve here. Sure enough, he just goes back to his turn, draws his card. With that Spell Pierce now off of the Brainstorm, he can actually sort of threaten to pierce a potential Stifle if Ryan ever chooses to, cast a Brainstorm upon her or something like that. So definitely better to not just run it out there willy-nilly and get it stifled. No real value in that. And now he is going to crack it. He's got the other land.
Ryan recording the life, lets him go.
Lets it resolve. He chooses to use the Stifle as a blue card to pitch to a Force of Will instead of as a Stun Rain. Completely legitimate. The hard counter more important. He does
only have 2 extra ones, right?
Yeah. He doesn't need to go really long and have the card advantage or card disadvantage rather of the Force of Will matter, because he's just trying to kill Brad as soon as possible with this Insectile Aberration.
Yep.
So with that resolving, Brad gets the shuffle, one of the bad cards away. He's got another land drop to make here in the form of Polluted Delta. I would assume this is being cracked right away, and the stream of Show and Tells is going to begin for Brad.
Yeah, he definitely needs to start trying to go off. As we saw last time, the best way to beat soft counter magic is to, go off once, minor resistance, go off again. Either there's nothing or you've already beaten the softies.
Exactly.
And Brad is going to go ahead and try and do that now. But the problem with going off slowly is you could die while you're going off.
Yes, which is why he's starting early. You might say, hey, well, he's already at, or he's still at 13 or 12 now that he cracked his fetch. What? You're not under that much pressure. Why do it now? But when you think you have to cast the 3 Show and Tells over 3 turns, that's 9 damage you're facing. Then you're dead the next turn. You actually do have to do it right away. And sure enough, the Show and Tell does get red elemental blasts, and Brad's like, all right, see you again next turn. Go ahead.
Yep. Note that this let Brad, preserve his Lotus Petal. Pretty handy.
And there is a Surgical Extraction, the card I was talking about on the sideboard for Ryan. And Surgical Extraction on Show and Tell here is actually brutal. Backbreaking with 2 more copies in his hand. Brad was really relying on those, and he's forced to Force a Will here, which is just going to get forced back.
I imagine it will.
He is going to pitch the 3rd copy of Show and Tell. Look, to sort of hedge against, his Force of Will getting re-countered.
Brad has only 3 cards in his hand, so Ryan should be forcing back because he doesn't have anything to fear.
Right.
Brad would have to have sneak attack land and a fatty to get it, which he can't do if he forces back. So Ryan, I think, playing perhaps a little timid there.
Yeah, it was quite conservative line. It's completely reasonable. It's just like, well, if he could play sneak attack and then activate it the next turn, like that is a reasonable threat. Although the Lotus Petal being the non-permanent red source there, and now that Brad played another show and tell rather than a sneak attack, Ryan's got to be kicking himself like, damn, I could have gotten that.
The other big thing is, like, if you successfully get that surgical extraction through, you can still cast Geist of St. Traft and just put Brad to dead.
Yes.
That's like an incredible upside, I think.
Yeah,
so
I
you're
agree.
kind of free rolling there. You have 2 forces. So
you get to see his hand.
You're not going to die, and you get to see his hand to know if you can give up your force in exchange for a Geist.
Yep, see his hand and know if you can present lethal. I agree. That's quite a good sequence, and there is a
sneak attack.
Sneak attack.
Brad can sneak attack. I imagine he may be tempted to wait, although he didn't get to 6-1 by waiting, as we said. But he has one more turn. Looks like he's not going to go for that though. He's going to make Ryan have a hard counter right now.
Yep. Which, I think is the way you have to play it.
I think that's fine, too. I agree. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, we know that, Glenn.
To be totally fair to Brad, he can just draw another sneak attack next turn.
That is true.
And win the game that way.
That is true.
He is on 3 outs. And I guess he has redraws on show and tells to block.
Yes, well, all of that is for naught because a Lightning Bolt is lethal, finishing off Brad Nelson, and we are going to Game 3. Now, this is important because Brad goes back on the play.
Brad is back on the play. That's really rough for Ryan's deck. Obviously, cards like Wasteland, Stifle, Daze, way better on the play than they are on the draw.
Yes, for sure. And when you're on the draw, especially against a deck that can just go like double land Lotus Petal and,
you're dead.
Yeah, just play their giant spell right away. Wow, Ryan on such full-blown tilt. He's out of here. He's just gone. He's left the building.
Ryan, no doubt, just taking a quick bathroom break.
Oh, is that what's happening?
Or perhaps getting a drink of water.
I thought he was, gonna just go flip a table and rage
it's
off.
kind of funny because Brad is actually pretty well known for taking breaks in the
Brad
middle of
does
matches.
exactly
and,
that all the time.
Ryan just gets to him before he can go there.
Yeah, there was actually, I remember when Brad was like on his run, there was actually a couple of whispers of people like, Brad cheats. And I'm just like, no, he doesn't. It's just like, no, he goes to the bathroom and gets information. It's just like, or he goes to the bathroom and like washes his hands, like washes his face, relaxes. Like that's, how does that equal cheating? It's just like he wins too much. It's like maybe he's just really good.
I mean, I know he like uses that time. He said, he's like, I take, calm myself down, focus on what's ahead, and that's in some ways a time management skill. I usually, just wait between rounds.
I mean, Brad plays fairly quickly,
and
very he always gets the judges to, give him an extension to use the bathroom, and he does it at like Pro Tours or like deep in GPs. He's not, wasting time.
These things.
He's not wasting time at F&M or whatever, But,
I don't know. You've never played Brad at F&M.
I guess that's fair. But Brad has like one of the strongest mental games in Magic, and that is a sign of it that he has the discipline to just like step away from the table and be like, all right, what's going on here? What happened last game? What do I want to do for the next game? And when a lot of people would just sort of jump into the next game right away, Brad, as you said, he was known for that, but this time his opponent doing it. But Brad being back on the play, pretty huge. All of Ryan's mana denial cards, a lot worse. Plus, with Brad on the play and being able to threaten like 3+ mana out of nowhere, being able to threaten like show and tell or sneak attack at any point, Ryan basically has to choose between, do I play a threat or do I leave up a counter / mana denial card? And then the next turn, he basically has to do the same thing because he has to go, okay, do I play my threat now or do I have to leave up 2 now?
Yeah, it's a tough spot. It's one of the reasons Vendilion Click is so good because not only do you get that information, but it's a flash threat.
Yeah.
Notice also the way Brad played the previous games. In game 1, he was on the draw and 5 mana was like his magic number, right?
Yes.
He wanted to get to 5 mana so he could play a show and tell, be able to pay for a Spell Pierce, and that just automatically bricks a lot of Ryan's cards. With Brad on the play, he doesn't need to do that necessarily. Like Ryan is
He
going
can
to
just turn one it or whatever.
Yeah, he can turn one it. He can go more aggressive. Ryan will not have a threat most of the time because he has to hold open that mana. So Brad can choose to go on a much shallower land count, or he can choose to go on a much deeper one. It's like all up to him. He is determining the pace of the game.
Yep, which is absolutely crucial. You know, he can pace the game how he wants, based on his draw, based on you know, the type of mana that he has, whether he has like City of Traders and Lotus Petals, or just like a bunch of fetch lands and Brainstorms. You know, he really gets to set the pace, as you said. Very good point. And what you said about Vendilion actually rung something else in my noggin, is how bad Geist is, for exactly the opposite reason. Tapping 3 mana in your main phase, that's scary. You know, I mean, even if you're up to like 5 mana and you're like, okay, now it's safe to tap 3. It's just like, no, because now he can pierce your pierce.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that at least in now this matchup, Geist is mostly a blue card, more than a Geist of St. Traft.
Yeah.
That said, you know, maybe he gets an early surgical extraction, or you know, they fight a war that he wins very early, and he just, you know, has a spot.
Yeah.
He's like, Brad's got, you know, one,
He's
maybe
got
2
the
cards. He's like,
information,
whatever, Geist, go.
Yeah.
Like, figure it out.
If he can get the information or just the resource advantage, he'll definitely have a chance to. I know that when I was playing a modern sort of Geist of St. Traft, you know, blue, white, red tempo deck, I would always board out my Geists against Splinter Twin. I feel like Splinter Twin versus, you know, the Geist blue, white, red deck is basically this deck this matchup without Force of Wills on both sides, right?
I agree.
And that was the exact reason, is like you needed to keep up all your mana for your mana leaks and dismembers, whereas here it's, you know, stifles and spell pierces and red blasts, but the principle is the same, and you know, tapping 3 mana is quite scary, so I would not be surprised if Ryan shaved a couple. We know he didn't board them all out because we just saw one in that game too, but I would not be surprised if he shaved a couple. As we go on to game 3 here, Brad back on the play, as we said, quite important. Ryan looking for enough disruption and a fast clock. I mean, Delver's like the ideal, right? Grim Lavamancer, not that fast of a clock. Geist, it's 3 mana sorcery speed, not what you want to be doing. Vendilion, quite good, but a little pricey. You know, if you have to end step it to get a clock going, and Brad can just like blast it or whatever, and you know, he's up the tempo exchange there, then that's not too good for you. So there's a lot of ways that it can go wrong for Ryan since Brad is on the play. We'll have to see how this game develops, how the draws line up against each other.
Wailed me on the shoulder.
Glenn having a bit of an attention deficit disorder moment there.
Just trying to, you know, carry on some business.
Yeah, the hardworking man, Glenn Jones. You know,
it's a lot of draws.
You got to multitask. You know,
I'm aware. Thank you.
I can't multitask. I'm so bad at it. I used to be pretty good at it. When I was like 17, I was able to like double queue Moto and have, you know, another game going and listen to music and watch TV. You know, it's crazy. But then, like, when I turned like 19 or 20, I can't even listen to music and play at the same time because I get too distracted.
I would argue at times that it felt like I was too good at it. That's the primary reason that I love so many alcoholic things such as beer. You know,
yes.
Pastimes.
Because it slows down your brain?
Yeah, it boils me down from like 7 things to like 3 tops. 3 tops.
Glenn, your brain's too big. You're too smart for your own good.
Oh, if only. Oh well, this player's shuffling up, ready to go. Brad, getting this game face on. Looks like we're
these guys are
discussing a little bit with the spotter here.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are both having really good tournaments.
Yeah.
Theoretically, this is a winning in because the players will most likely be able to draw in the next round. So quite a big match, basically playing for a top 8 seed, which is, you know, really the goal coming into the tournament. Get to the top 8, and then once you're in that bracket, then it's a whole new tournament with only 8 entrants. But yeah, that's what's on the line. A jovial handshake there. A little sportsmanship. Good luck. They know what's on the line here, and we are underway for Game 3. Brad Nelson on the play. Ooh, look at Ryan staring him down.
Yep, not looking at that hand yet. Trying to get every read he can off of one Bradley Nelson.
And Brad does keep. Ryan looking at his hand. Not a snap keep. Definitely not the most confident. He's got the tongue in cheek there. Nope, he is mulliganing. He does not like that. That hands. I mean, it looked like it was, lands and spells. Oh, well, now Brad's leaving us.
Oh, one-upping with the bathroom game.
Mind games. There's a reference for you, Glenn Jones. No?
Yelling mind games? What's the reference?
Day 9.
Oh, I am not. I am familiar, but not intimately familiar.
Oh, okay.
It
sucks to be you. Yeah. I wish, am I right? What a dreamboat. Whoa.
Yeah, I believe I briefly stood near him at Pro Tour San Diego. I don't even think I introduced myself or anything like that.
That was a pun.
He was around.
We got
I know of him only mostly by reputation. I've read, I should say, and enjoyed a few entries from his blog.
Yes.
I've never watched him stream. His blog was pretty interesting. It delves into some of the business points of esports, which obviously a person like myself
quite interested in, yeah.
Might have some curiosity about.
Absolutely, yeah. His blog is very good. I would highly recommend you and everyone out there check out Day 9 TV episode 100, My Life in StarCraft. Beautiful. It's awesome. It's like an hour and a half. I want to say. It's pretty long. It's like maybe 2 hours. But I mean, it's better than any movie you would watch. If you were gonna watch a movie, just watch this instead. It's really good. He just talks about he talks about his history in competitive gaming and sort of growing up with his brother playing games and how he got into the competitive side, and then a bunch of big tournaments, and it's really, really awesome, really touching, and a lot of parts hit really close to home, because he talks about traveling to different tournaments with his buddies and playing all day. You're practicing for months and you play all day and you get to the finals and lose and it's just I've been there, I feel that, No.
No, I get it,
I forgot Glenn Jones is a robot without emotions. I forgot that. I forgot he's,
I walked through a bookstore and I saw a portal starter, It's hard for me to empathize with this. I made the single greatest mistake of my life
Your story's
and bought the portal starter.
You're so jaded, Glenn Jones. Why?
Portal Second Age, actually. I didn't even get the better lands. Just so loose. Got a sweet Dakmor Sorceress, though.
I remember playing. My gateway to Magic was the Pokemon trading card game because I was the perfect age when that hit. I was just their wheelhouse. I was I want to say 8-ish when Pokemon really hit America hard, and so the Pokemon trading card game was just everyone played it. Obviously, what else are you gonna do? And basically, I got sick of beating everyone. And nobody wanted to play with me. My sister quit the game. She's just no, I'm just collecting the cards now. I won't play the game anymore. She got sick of losing to me. So, all the older kids played this other game called Magic, and that's how I learned about it. It took me a couple years after that to actually start playing, but that's how I first discovered this beautiful game that brings us all together.
It's funny, actually. I had basically the reverse trajectory. I actually played Magic first, and I learned Pokemon when I found out some of my friends from elementary school who I went to a different school, they had started playing it, and we still hung out every now and then, and that was another way to connect with them again.
Gotcha,
going to tournaments, seeing these friends I hadn't seen since I moved schools.
That's how it starts, right? It's a social game.
Yeah. And then you
until you play Moto,
kill everyone.
until you play Moto, until you get real competitive and start motoing. Then it's a little less social at that point. And I know that you actually are quite proficient at the WoW TCG as well, so you are just an all-around Renaissance nerd.
A little bit. I am the reigning runner-up of the Yu Yu Hakusho World Championship.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
this
right.
is me pretending I know what that is.
It's a format with a lot more turn 1 kills than any Magic event ever. If you thought, Necro Winter or Academy Summer, whatever, if you thought those were bad,
try this.
The World Championships was literally a deck that started with Arcane Lab in play and a deck that comboed on turn 1. Those were the only 2 decks. And
that was the metagame?
And then there was my deck, which put 2 people in the top 4. Just saying. Only 2 people playing it in the tournament.
We're not talking about humble brags.
Yeah. Single elimination, day 2.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a tough game. Tough game.
Cutthroat, and these guys are basically in a single elimination match here as Ryan ponders his 6, excuse me.
This looks like a 5 to me.
He is
this looks
not
like
happy.
he's, can I convince myself to keep this? Yeah. But no, he's I'm too good to keep this.
I think it was V who said, if you have to think about it, just ship it.
Yeah.
This is one of those cases where he is fairly deep in the tank here, and it's going to be one of those things where if he keeps it and loses, he's going to kick himself. But if he mulligans to 5 and just gets run over, he's also going to kick himself. You know, definitely not a good spot to be in. But is a bad 6 better than a random 5? And it looks like no, that 6 is not better than a random 5. At least not in Ryan's opinion.
Looks like he would have got there. He's a little burned by it, but obviously probably made the correct decision. We didn't see the hand, but I can say that if you ship there, like, it was probably correct.
Yeah, in the dark, I would have to agree. Once again, this V quote, you know, words to live by. Yeah. If you have to think about it, you probably have to. I really
like Jerry wrote an excellent article on mulliganing some time ago, or at least an excellent little section of an article on mulliganing, in which, you know, he first looks at the hand and, you know, thinks like, can it win?
Right.
Like, that's the baseline metric, is can this hand win this game? Right, obviously, Ryan had probably passed that point. He's like, yeah, sure, this hand could win. Some things have to go right.
Yeah.
But, you know, the next question is it better than the average hand below it, like you can mulligan to? And that's a pretty big distinction. Like, you don't necessarily need a good 6. You need a 6 that's better than your average 5.
Right, which a lot of people think like, oh, this hand is sub 50%, I should mulligan. It's just like, well, if a random 5 is 30% to win, and your 5 card is 40% to win, you need to keep, even though you're sub 50%, you need to keep those hands. A lot of people miss that. And I know that you've been streaming a bit. You used to stream a lot.
I know.
You're getting back into it now.
I am getting back into it. I'm trying to get on a schedule.
But that is one thing, one of the sort of misconceptions that a lot of people in my stream chat have is when I keep kind of a loose 6, they're just like, no, you have to go to 5 here. It's just like, no, even though this hand isn't good, I think I'm more likely to draw, say, 2 lands and 3 cards and win this, you know, sealed game than I am to win with a random 5.
Sure.
Just the way that the math works, I think that I'm more likely. I don't think I'm favored.
Nope. Yeah,
but I think I'm more likely, which is what's important.
Yeah, I think that I mulligan a little too aggressively in those kinds of situations personally.
Yeah.
And which leads to me, you know, playing a lot more games on 5. However, that in and of itself has been somewhat reasonable. As you know, once you get more comfortable with playing on mulligans to 5, they really don't bother you as much. Yeah. You understand how your resources differ.
I actually have a video coming out pretty soon on exactly that, how to win from 5 cards. So
excellent.
I promise that wasn't even a plug. He set me up without even knowing. And we are underway. Brad is on the play against a 5-card hand from Ryan. Brad fetching a basic before Stifle is online and to prevent Wasteland from tagging his first land. And it looks like Ryan's hand is quite blue, which is where, you know, that's what you want it to look like, at least. Yeah.
He has a lucky Pokemon card out there, it looks, as well.
Wow, just everything's coming full circle here.
Yeah, I know, man. We're like prophets over here.
So he's got a couple forces, or a couple counters and Force of Will, and at least a Spell Pierce. Looks like he's going to have a turn 1 play here. Possibly a Delver, which is ideal. If you have Delver and then can untap with Pierce and Force, that's like the best 5 you could possibly hope for.
Definitely. Of course, you know, there's just the chance that, you know, Brad untaps and kills you, but
right.
you gotta reach for the stars.
Yeah, exactly. When you're on 5, you gotta cross your fingers sometimes, and this is you definitely can't write it up much better from 5, and it looks like Ryan does indeed have the Delver of Secrets, and he's got at least a Force of Will and a Spell Pierce, and it looks like a couple other blue cards. So definitely not looking too bad, but Brad is on 7 on the play. He's got his land, and he snap kept his hand. It feels like it was forever ago that he actually kept his hand, but
he kind of was.
He did keep it quite quickly, and it looks like he does have sort of a good mix here as he draws for his second turn.
I believe that was a sneak attack that he drew.
All right, so more pieces coming together here. He's got a Spell Pierce, a Show and Tell, a Force of Will. It looks like a Gristlebrand, another blue spell. Misdirection. And the Sneak Attack, which was drawn for the turn. So not quite all the pieces. A little mana short against the Mana Denial deck.
Dangerous spot to be in.
Yeah, definitely. He is going to fetch another basic here, I have to assume. Once again, playing around both Stifle and Wasteland. And I don't think he has a play. Just passing the turn and seeing what Ryan can do.
Needs to find some mana. A City of Traders or Ancient Tomb ideal.
Yes.
But he's definitely, he has a window, but it will close pretty quickly if he fails to find those lands. Once Ryan can get a handful of cards, flip that Delver over, Brad will be on a short clock.
For sure. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're down on cards if you have all the relevant ones and, you know, the clock to back it up.
Yep.
If your opponent ends up at 0, it doesn't matter that you started with 2 less. And here we go. The Delver does flip immediately with another blue card. So Brad kind of under the gun, even though he started up. You know, we said how important the play was, and he started up 2 cards. And now the onus to win the game is actually on him.
Yep. It's one of the advantages of being, the aggro creature deck.
Yes.
You can just win games where your opponents stumble like this when they fail to put together exactly the number of resources.
And that's what these Rug Delver-esque type of decks do. As we see a Brainstorm get Spell Pierced, Brad figuring he's not going to be able to use that Pierce to protect, so he might as well use it to deny Ryan some card filtering there. Ryan does draw a fetch land for the turn, attacks for 3 and passes. He's got another Brainstorm, at least 1 Spell Pierce, possibly 2, and a Force of Will. Quite a good hand. Can't really draw it up much better, as Brad looks like he's about to miss another land draw.
I think he drew a Scalding Turn this turn.
Okay.
He's actually, I believe, debating whether he should try and go off or not.
Okay.
That's my guess. He can wait till he draws another land or a petal or another blue card to give himself another counter.
Right.
Or he can just,
start
go
jamming
for it here. Yeah, and I kind of think that considering how much land, blue card, petal would improve his hand, it might be worthwhile to wait.
Yeah, it's a good percentage of his deck to give him a full, extra sort of layer of protection here. And
Brad agrees.
Yeah, he does agree, and so do I. He passes the turn, drawing through good portions of his deck. He's still got a few turns here, and
Ryan debating an end-of-turn Brainstorm with a Shuffler. Note that this will give Brad the opportunity to crack his fetch without fearing Stifle. Ryan...
Which was actually his draw for the turn, is a Stifle, so that's quite powerful.
And Ryan certainly would like to not just let Brad get another land into play if he can help it.
Yeah, this is... it looks like his hand is double Pierce, Stifle, Force, and a Brainstorm to pitch to it. That's a hell of a wall to get through.
Brad's going to go ahead and fetch for that turn. Ryan marking down the life, almost certainly Stifling, right?
Yeah, I have to assume. He might want to keep up double Pierce, but I think that, you'll be able to get the full turn's worth of mana the next turn also. I don't think that you're necessarily going to die this turn, since Brad did miss a land drop and is now getting Stone Rained.
Yeah.
You have 1 Pierce and a Force. That should be enough to survive this turn, and your Pierce is going to be live next turn no matter what.
Yeah, if you're Brad, do you force this Stifle?
I think you have to.
All right.
And it looks like you have
Brad
to pitch
agrees.
a Force of Will to that, or maybe the Misdirection.
Yeah, he pitched a Force, which I find interesting.
He's a third Force.
I know he has a third Force, but I guess that to be fair, that's a good one because it makes Ryan probably think it's less likely Brad will have another Force.
Right.
So he goes ahead and pitches 1, considering he knows he's going to have to pitch basically those 4 cards to counter 2 spells.
And I agree with this. Ryan letting it resolve. Your Pierces are going to be live on the Show and Tell / Sneak Attack, but not going to be live on that Force of Will. Obviously, with 2 mana still left, so you might as well just get the full value out of them. Now, you don't want to have to spend 2 cards in the form of Force Pitch or 2 Pierce or whatever it is to just the Stone Rain. You'd rather be able to counter the actual spell that matters. And Brad's shaking his head. He knows he's actually in trouble here. He must have gotten a bit of a read there, knowing Ryan's hand is quite strong.
It just occurred to me that Brad may have purposefully kept the Misdirection because if he pays a life for another Force, he'll be going to 6, which is a Delver and a Bolt away from death.
Yeah.
So he probably actually needs to cast the Misdirection instead of the Force.
Yeah, Misdirection, sometimes used to move a removal spell onto the controller's the controller's own creature. But in these types of decks, it's used as just an additional Force of Will. What you can actually do is misdirect, say, a Spell Pierce, for example, onto the Misdirection itself. And then the Misdirection finishes resolving, the Spell Pierce doesn't have a target and fizzles, and the Show and Tell, for example, would then resolve. So it's a Force of Will with a similar alternate cost, but as Glenn pointed out, does not cost you a life, which is actually a full turn off of Ryan's clock. And it looks like the Spell Pierce on the Show and Tell is going down here for Ryan, and Brad is wondering, what do I have to do to win this game? Do I have to do this now? Can I draw another card for and try and hit a land for my sneak attack? I don't think he has the time to do that.
No.
Looks like he's just shuffling Ryan's deck, and as soon as he gets done doing that, I feel like we're going to see a Misdirection go onto the stack for Brad, targeting the Spell Pierce.
Interestingly, Brad played around Wasteland in this game, obviously. If he had gotten a Volcanic Island instead of one of those islands, he would actually be able to draw a City of Traders and sneak attack next turn.
Yes.
Like, that would provide him with additional loss. But that's the danger you come into when you're playing against these tempo matchups.
Yeah. The table judge kind of misunderstanding what's happening here. Brad explaining, I'm pitching the Force of Will to the Misdirection, not the other way
not
around.
Going to 6. That's the most important.
Yeah. And Ryan does read it, and here, time being announced, we have an extension here, thanks to the bathroom breaks and the fact that it's a future match. And sure enough, misdirection resolves, but Ryan still had all these Force of Wills, and Brad frowning, and ooh, he is not happy past the turn there.
Huh?
And the Wasteland for Ryan.
The Wasteland
actually
cuts
blanked.
off that line Brian, that Brad could have theoretically had. However, it doesn't even look like Ryan's going to need it.
Yeah, Ryan had another Spell Pierce. Brad pondering here.
Needs some nice ones. Draws a City of Traders.
Which
but,
lets him cast the sneak attack and then activate it next turn, theoretically.
Theoretically.
But we know that that would actually get Spell Pierced here.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, you can't shuffle away there, right? Like City of Traders, like Ancient Tomb kills you. City of Traders is like one of the best cards that you could possibly have here. Obviously can't shuffle there, and have to, since you only have the one red source, you have to cast the sneak attack this turn. And
Ryan can't spell pierce fast enough.
So fast that, wow, and vigorous handshake. He is quite happy to move on.
Yep.
Ryan takes it down 2-1 and will presumably be able to draw into our top 8, taking down the standard open winner, former player of the year, Brad Nelson. Not an easy opponent to have to face in your win-in.
And Jerry faced with the bittersweet sensation of having kept hold of his his double trophy from Pittsburgh in 2011.
I need to stop commentating these so I can start playing them again and chase
Try
them
and
down.
catch 'em?
Yeah.